Yazidi woman freed after a decade of ISIS captivity. In a significant operation, US backed Kurdish forces in Syria achieved a poignant victory with the liberation of a 24-year-old Yazidi woman and her two children from the clutches of the Islamic State after a harrowing decade of captivity. This happened like last week, guys. This is not an old story. This rescue, part of the Syrian Democratic Forces' ongoing security operations within the al-Hol refugee camp, not only highlights the still ongoing efforts to dismantle the remnants of ISIS influence, but also casts light on the enduring plight of the Yazidi community, long victimized by the group's brutal campaign. The woman, a native of the Yazidi heartland in Sinjar, Iraq, was one of thousands subjected to unimaginable atrocities during the ISIS led genocide in 2014, including being sold and RAPE'd since the age of 14. Her statement, quote, "They destroyed my life. I was sold and bought like a sheep," underscores the horrific reality faced by many under ISIS's reign of terror. The operation, named Humanity and Security 3, Phase 3, has seen a detention of dozens of suspected affiliations with ISIS, marking a continued commitment to justice and the recovery of lives shattered by extremism. So, let's give like a little bit of background. So, with all the fighting against ISIS, so for those who are not aware, during the peak of the Islamic State in 2014, there was a massive, massive, massive genocide that was carried out against the Yazidi people, which is a religious and ethnic minority in Iraq, who the name of the god that they worship is Iblis, which does
Oh,
not for a Muslim that means like you worship the devil. Right?
yeah, means
For
Lucifer,
within the
basically.
exactly, within the Yazidi faith, like, that is not the conception at all, but the name of it is literally Iblis. So, combined by the fact that ISIS is kinda just trying to kill anyone that's, like, not on their vibe, any other Muslim that's a Shia, any Ahmadi, like, they're apostates, whatever, any religious minority, they don't care at all. But having the name of your highest entity literally be Iblis, it leads them to believe that you're devil worshippers. So they are literally going to go in and genocide you, and they are going to take you as sex slaves, as they are Quranically permitted to do in the scope of war. So they took a lot of women as sex slaves. They would sell them around and torture them. I mean, it's like a level of it boggles the mind. I mean, the details are horrific, and it's crazy that a lot of women who participated in this slave trade were Western women who joined ISIS, who then had ISIS husbands who would then do this to these girls constantly, and they would participate in it, and they would participate in the torture of these girls, and now a lot of these women who did this are now being repatriated to places like Germany where they are facing prosecution. Just a side note, there was a German woman who was prosecuted for this, and we covered this, and the woman only got 9 years. That's insane to me. She should be under the jail. Anyways, anyways. So what happened is that as forces around the world joined together and fought back ISIS, what remains of ISIS is largely in an area of Syria, which has become like half detention center, half refugee camp, basically hell on earth called al-Hol. And al-Hol is holds tens of thousands of people. I think at its peak it held 73,000 people. Now I think it's around 50,000. I'm not exactly sure how much. And this is where there are a lot of ISIS fighters. There are men that were there, and their women, their wives, and their children who have been growing up in this isolated camp filled with ISIS extremists, for the past like 10 years. And it's actually becoming a huge problem because we have like a whole new generation of people, like children being raised in this environment and radicalized. And it's an extremely dangerous camp. It's extremely dangerous. And what happens is that there are parts of the camps that are like for different populations. So, like, the women and children are typically kept in one area, people from Iraq and Syria are typically kept in one area, and then there's one area called the Annex, which is where all these, like, Western or foreign-born women who flew across the world to join ISIS are. So all these kinda, like, foreign nationals are in this area called the Annex, and that's known as being the most dangerous because those are really the most extreme people. And, it's this huge international problem regarding repatriating a lot of these people, and what do we do with all these people? Because they are still most of straight up psychos. And but then they have all these children, and then it becomes an issue of, are we separating children from their mothers? Frankly, I'm like, if your mother is a terrorist, yeah, we can separate the children from the mothers, like, um, regardless. So, what happened is that a lot of these women who are forced into ISIS through sex slavery are actually still in al-Hol. And there are reports based, because I was reading the website of, so part of the group that helped free this particular woman is the YPJ, which is the, like, Kurdish Women's Defense Force. I can't remember what their actual name is. But it's the badass Kurdish women who are freaking literally going toe to toe fighting Islamists. Yo, I mean, say what you will about that whole movement, because there's a lot of leftist stuff and socialism things that I'm not a huge fan of, but, like, these women are straight up badasses. I don't care what anyone says. Like, um, and side note, this is why a lot of Kurds are very strong supporters of Israel. One, because they kinda want an Israel for themselves, like that kind of a state, but two, because they fight Islamists. It's like Israelis, Kurds fighting Islamists. They're like, "We fought ISIS. We do not fuck with these people. We do not fuck with Hamas. These people are terrorists. This is not a drill." Like, "This is not a drill. We are 10 toes down fighting these psychos." Okay, so anyways, and so what happens is that there are still, like, terrorist operations happening within al-Hol, this detainment refugee center camp. And they have to go in, and besides just trying to keep control over the perimeter, every now and then they have to go in and do raids to try to find tunnels that they're digging, find torture devices, find explosives, find people who are maybe, like, harboring terrorists. Like, they have to actually still actively do operations against ISIS even within this camp. And so this happened during one of these raids or operations in the camp. They found this woman and liberated her after 10 years of being stuck in ISIS captivity, because she had to, like, keep her Yazidi identity secret, because these women, because even though they're mostly segregated in this refugee center, like, these women are freaking dangerous and they will attack you and kill you. So they found this woman and liberated her and her children, and by the way, her children are so freaking adorable, it's not even funny. Like, I found a video, they're so cute, they look like little angels. Um, and so that's what I wanted to celebrate, was that this woman was freed. And the thing is, according to the website of these forces that I was reading, is that they know that there are other Yazidi women still there, but they just have to, like,
Still,
it's so hard to find
after
them.
all this time, like, a lot of people have forgotten about this. There's still, like, imagine being one of these Yazidi women that is, after all these years that apparently ISIS have been, like, destroyed and completely, you're supposed annihilated. There are Yazidi women who are still, after all these years, like, ISIS is still there, um, and they're captives and they're being raped, and the world is not coming for them. Like, if I was one of them, I would have thought that they would have come for me by now, but they just it's just still happening. It's just continuing after all this time. I'm still a sex slave under ISIS, and the world has forgotten. It's
And it's really difficult because if you're one of these women actually still in the camp, like, you're still surrounded by ISIS
Mm.
and all these ISIS women constantly. So even in certain situations where maybe, like, I don't know exactly the operations of the camp, but I'm assuming there's situations in which there's like aid workers or someone delivering food or medical supplies, blah, blah, blah. You're still like surrounded by these people at all times. And so the ability to get yourself out is still extremely restricted. And she had two children, two very young children. Um, But now she has been freed. I think we can all celebrate that. I saw a video where I think she was reunited with one of her sisters, in a video where she saw, like, a bunch of her families on Zoom, and, I also saw a video of her actually, like, telling her story and speaking to camera, but I can't understand Arabic, so I can't actually, um, give any insight into what she was sharing. Um, but if you s yeah, if you can, that's out there. You can go find that video of her actually speaking to camera. Finally, yeah, took off her hijab and just talking about what she went through, and it's absolutely, I mean, insane. But congratulations, and, nothing but admiration and, support for the badassery of these Kurdish forces. They are no
Yeah,
joke, man. They take this seriously.
yeah. ISIS fighters' greatest fear is to be killed by a woman. Some of them, it's the greatest form of humiliation for them. So they really try to avoid them. It doesn't. They're terrified about the fact that they're fighting an army that has female soldiers. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.